Just see. The audio is on here. Okay, then my recording is not going to happen. But that's okay. I can do it from here. Are you sure? You can bring that closer? No, but
That's fine.
but actually the screen will come there. And bring this.
Yes, screen will come.
Or you could screen is going to come from sharing.
Yes. Screen is this. In Zoom.
There are some desires that need to be rejected. That always gets rejected. So some desires need to be rejected. Some desires need to be accommodated. And some desires need to be developed. So desire management is the key so that the search for happiness doesn't become the cause of happiness. So rejected, in one sense, we already discussed the superficial desires. So among the many desires that we have, our desires are not one thing. All our desires will fall in the same category. Not all desires can be treated in the same way. So Krishna especially talks about this in 270. He says, na kama kami. This particular approach says, na kama kami is a very interesting compound word. So some desires, they need to be rejected. What does it mean? That Krishna says, na kama kami. Apuryamana machada pratishtam. In that verse, what is it? Sashantim apnoti na kama kami. So basically it says, don't be a desirer of desire. Desirer of desire means there are many desires that will come up with this. And we need to recognize which desires are superficial. Say we pass by some, we're walking by some shop and there's some food to eat. We get a desire to eat. Now if we start eating every food item that catches our desire, no, that's too expensive, not just financially, but physically. It's not sustainable. So there are many desires. The desire will flow into us because that is the nature of the world. But when we say this is my consciousness, then the desire flowing into me is like a proposition. So many propositions will come. We can't close our eyes and function in the world. But the response to that is the decision, is the pursuit. It is. So not every proposition. So propositions, we can stop it to some extent, but we can't always. So propositions may come, but decision is no. This is not what I need. Now, this level of regulation is required even in daily life. When we function in the world, even if somebody is not a spiritualist, that we see so many people in the world, so many people seem attractive. Now, we can't just be pursuing any and every person. Even materially, a person can turn into a predator and he consider a problem. So basically, there's so many desires which will come in, but I'm not going to pursue. Now, how is this possible? How can we reject desires? The word rejection itself often conveys the idea of deprivation. I saw this particular clothes, this particular bike, this particular car, and I wanted it. And when the desire is coming, how can I reject it? That's when Krishna says it depends on our consciousness. The metaphor he uses over here is that if our consciousness is like a puddle and the desire coming in is like a river, then what will happen? The puddle will completely be devastated by the river. So, like that, if our consciousness is not filled with something substantial, something big, if we say if you're coming from your college to temple, and if you are clear, okay, I want to come to the temple, I want to learn about the Gita, I want to learn about the higher values of life. Then you might see some movie holding, you might see some food, okay, I'm not interested in this. But if somebody is just going for a walk, going to enjoy, fool around, hang around, there's nothing to do. Then what happens is, if there's nothing in our mind, filling our mind, at least there is no higher purpose, then any small desire will come and drive us. So basically, if our consciousness is like a puddle and the river is the desire, consciousness is the puddle, then there will be devastation. We will be completely overwhelmed. So the way to reject the desire is not simply to say, no, 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 I won't do this. The way to reject is actually to enlarge our consciousness so much that our consciousness becomes like an ocean. And then when the desire comes in, it's like a river. It won't disturb us. So we all have this experience when our consciousness is filled with something big. Say if some friend tells you that, okay, this is IPL match, let's go and watch it. Okay, let me go and watch it. But there's a movie company, but say you have an important project, an important deadline, and that's what you focus on. Say, not now. So when our own consciousness is internally filled with something bigger, then not being affected by the desire that come in. So if rejection is focus is centered only on saying no, it's not something you can keep doing for long. So how we reject is itself a whole process. We will talk about that as we move forward. So sometimes people feel that, oh, if I have to follow rules, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So like I said, that sometimes people feel the rules means you said rules bring happiness. And I think many people feel that actually rules take us away from the things or keep us away from the things that bring us happiness. Why do you feel like that? Because there are different kinds of desires. So some desires we are saying no to, and the rules will say, okay, don't just eat whatever catches your eye, or don't just watch everything, you wasting time. So the rule. But what we are saying no to is important, but what we are saying yes to is even more important. So what is the Gita explains that in this world there are many temptations. And why are these temptations there? There is a purpose. I was in Australia and was asking a question there. If God wants us to do good things, then why are there so many bad options in the world? In fact, why are the bad options or the options they considered not so good by even from a normal perspective, they're not so good, or even from a traditional perspective, they're not. Why are they so good? So I explain. That's how it is in any multiple choices. Isn't it? The wrong options are many, the right option is only one. And the teacher is only given the wrong options. But the wrong option is not given for us to choose the wrong option. The wrong option is given so that it can be evaluated whether we have studied. But if we have studied, then we will naturally choose the right option. So like that, if you remember one point about the happiness, which is like poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. What Krishna says, it's Atma Buddhi Prasada. It brings self-understanding. So there are desires which take us away from ourselves. And there are desires which bring us closer to ourselves. Like say, what do you mean by among the desires? Some can take us away from ourselves. What that means is, like say somebody starts drinking. Now, intoxication is actually a means to forget who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. And then that person is drinking and drinking. I was at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, talking with the people, and I was addressing them, so we were having a discussion. So one person said that he had gone for he started drinking, and one night he had an urge to drink. And it was late night, it was freezing cold, sleeping out, got into his car, and went to a nearby place, and the particular kind of liquor he wanted was not there. Then he went to other side of the town, and then when he got near the shop, his car broke. And then it just not started. He got out of the car and he started running toward the shop. And he was so desperate to get that liquor that he had forgotten to use their warm boots. So it was chilly. So he ran into the shop, got the liquor, uncorked it, separately he was going, go back and drink. And then he was going back towards his car. And then while he was going along, somewhere there was some ice or something below, and he slipped. And he slipped. He had uncorked the bottle, but he had not put the cork back together. So what happened was he got a shape of the alcohol. His first thought was frustration. I had so much effort to get this drink, and now it's all spilled. And then the next thought came, and he was flat on the ground, and his body was cold. He was looking at this, looking around. He said, actually, all the lights and all the homes around there. This is what have I become? What have I become? Instead of sleeping peacefully in bed, I'm lying on this ground. This is not who I am. This is not who I wanted to be. So this is the time, this realization, unhappiness comes. Unhappiness will anyway come to everyone. But there are two understanding the cause of unhappiness. One is it is frustration of desire. I thought this, but I didn't get it. That is the cause of unhappiness. But the other understanding is the unhappiness is because of domination by desire. That why am I unhappy? How have I become so hooked to this alcohol that at night I have gone all this extreme, and that is why I'm unhappy. So now, which is the cause of unhappiness? We could say it's both. But most of the times, we would think that oh, because I didn't get this desire, that's why I'm unhappy. But why is a special mercy, special insight, some kind of divine spiritual better understanding that my unhappiness is not because I could not fulfill this desire. It is actually because I have this desire. And this desire is so strong. So the unhappiness, that's the time I realized I'm going to give this. Inside slowly. What do I do? How do we move? So he came to 12 steps program, and we also started a PRG recovery group where we have the 12 steps of the Alcoholics Anonymous. They are present using all different systems. So the point is that somebody is going to introduce to come. So basically, there are desires that we need to reach. So there are some desires that take us away from ourselves. And there are some desires that take us closer to ourselves. The desire that take us toward ourselves. So the desire that take us away from ourselves, these need to be rejected. So we all can see that the things that I'm desiring, even if sometimes we are in a relationship, and then in that relationship we start finding that I'm becoming more angry, or I'm becoming I'm going away from who I am. Sometimes in seeking approval of another person. There's like an approval addiction also. In trying to please the other person, we might do things which are unhealthy. So this other desires taking away from us. There are desires like that, and they need to be changed. Now, however, there is what is the acronym we are discussing? RAD. So the second is accommodate. Not all desires can be rejected. Krishna talks about this in 17 and 18, where he says, Yukta aharadharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu. So he says, for example, that it is eating, sleeping, recreation, working, all these are, in one sense, needs of the body mind machine that we have. And these needs cannot be rejected. They need to be accommodated. And so the key for accommodation is regulation. Regulation means not too little, not too much. Krishna says, don't sleep too little, don't sleep too much. If we sleep too little, what happens? If we don't sleep at the right time, we sleep at the wrong time. If we don't sleep at night, we sleep in classes, we sleep in meetings, we sleep while driving. Oh, a sleepy driver is actually more easier than a drunk driver. So, sleeping is the Now, when you talk about accommodation, this is where there is individual consideration. We cannot have a one size fit all policy. So, for example, with respect to food, how much food you want? We can't say everybody will eat fish box. No, some people have a higher metabolism. They may have a healthier appetite. They may eat more. But the key is not how much you eat. The key is what we do after we eat. So, in the broad tradition, there is Raghunath Goswami who will just eat. He was a great saint, medieval saint who will eat just a little bit buttermilk once in 3 days. And there was Bhima who, when the Pandavas would be in forest, whatever food they would get, they would divide all the food into half. And whatever was one half would go to Bhima. And the remaining one half would be divided among the others. He just had that. And he's also considered he's a great person, great spiritualist. So the point is, different people may have different desires that need to be accommodated to different things. So we could say that in terms of desire management, in our search for happiness. Now, why are we talking about desire management right now? See, we said that the search for happiness can become the cause of unhappiness. So we don't want that to happen. So when that search for happiness is driven by some superficial desires, those need to be rejected because they will lead to unhappiness. So we could say there is white, there is black. So the black part is in the desires that need to be rejected. So now it is not just one line, you could say it's a spectrum. Black is also a spectrum. Black is also now in between is the gray. So these need to be accommodated. So when these desires are to be accommodated, each person has to find out how they accommodate. So some people, as I said, may need a particular amount of food. Some people may need a particular amount of sleep. Some people may get along with say 5.5, 6 hours. Some people may need 8 hours. Now, is a person who's sleeping 8 hours lazy? Not necessarily. It could be, but it need not be. It depends. That the point is not how much we sleep. The point is how do we function when we are awake. So there can be different degrees of accommodation required. So some people are introverts, so they need their space. Some people are extroverts, they need people around. So this is not something which can be completely changed, nor does it need to be changed. It needs to be accommodated. Each person needs to be accommodated. So yuktahar, we have to be yukta chishyaste karmasi. Yukta vihara. Vihara means recreation. So the word recreation, nowadays it's just people equate watching movies or something like that. But recreation essentially means that which recreates us. We get exhausted and we need to be recreated. So, for example, I give the example of introvert, extrovert. Introverts, they get strength when they are alone. Extroverts, they get strength when they are with you. So, recreation means we have to find out the activities that recreate us. And those also we do in regulations. Introverts should not become people haters, isn't it? And extroverts should not become people dependent. Both can go toward extreme. So the idea is there are desires. So recreation. Recreation essentially means that which rejuvenates or strengthens us, restores our strength. So here we are not just referring to physical strength, it could be emotional strength, mental strength. We all need some activities that relax and rejuvenate us. So these need to be regulated. So for introverts, and an introvert, extrovert is just one category, I'm giving an example. But there could be different kinds of categories. Say, for example, somebody may like music. And then for that person, just maybe picking up an instrument and just playing the instrument, singing, that is the rejuvenate. So this is where when people talk about hobbies, people spend a lot of time in learning hobbies. The hobbies, they are a form of recognition. So each of us now, if somebody says I'll not do any job, I just play music. Well, if you want to become a professional musician, that's different. But otherwise, that cannot take up your whole life. So there are some desires which need to be accommodated. And different people now, which particular desire need to be accommodated, it depends on person to person. So some people, they may have a very strong desire to achieve something. That somebody has, okay, my life's dream is to have this kind of house, this level of comfort. And okay, if that's what that is, so some people are just supposed to desire, some people may different. If that's what a person requires, okay, that desire can be accommodated. But the point is that desire should not start dominating us. That desire should not start defining us. And this is where individual guidance and individual introspection is required to decide which desires we accommodated and to what degree. And what is the last part? Yeah, the acronym RA, D is develop. See, bhakti is not about giving up desires. It is about taking up desires. Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America and at the age of almost 70, what brought him to America? Was he detached? Yes, he was detached. That's how to say it. But he just stayed in Vrindavan. What brought him to America was his desire to share Krishna's words. And among all those who were the disciples of his spiritual master, Prabhupada's followers, others might have been more attached than him, more they might have lifelong initiates. But Prabhupada, what defined him was like Guru Maharaj is giving instruction, I have to follow this. I want to fulfill this. So bhakti is not so much about giving up desires. It is about taking up desires. Now, of course, it's not the same category of desires. Some desires have to be given up. But the core of bhakti is not core of spirituality in the Bhakti tradition is not about giving up desires. It is about taking up higher, healthier desires. And now, what do these desires mean? This is part to conclude the section. That if we consider this is the spiritual level and this is the material level. So, at the spiritual level, Krishna exists as the highest reality. And say, I am here. So, what the Gita explains is that we at our core are parts of God. And because we are parts of God, many of you said that doing something for someone else, be it our loved ones, be it someone unknown to us, we do something good for others. That's what brings happiness. And that's because we are a part of a reality bigger than ourselves. So at one level, the desire for Krishna, desire to attain Krishna, desire to develop love for Krishna and to be immersed in Krishna. That Krishna is source of all goodness. He is, like if you have a powerhouse and connect the powerhouse to putting our lines on it, then we get happiness. We get not happiness, we get power. Like that, because Krishna is like a reservoir of happiness. So when you connect with Krishna, you get happiness. And the connection with Krishna is through desire. However, that's not the only thing. That connecting with Krishna is not just about turning away from the world and going towards Krishna. It is one understanding that Krishna exists up there in the spiritual world. But another understanding is that actually Krishna exists everywhere. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam swakarmana tamabhyarchana siddhim vedati manava. That This whole theme is caused talk about from 1846 to 48 in the Bhagavad Gita. What Krishna says is Krishna exists everywhere. Krishna exists even in this world, or other this world exists within Krishna. And therefore, we serve Krishna also through this world. So when we act in a mood of service, so there is the direct desire for Krishna, that is our connection with Krishna. And then this is our contribution. It's a contribution to Krishna through this world. So Arjuna was a great archer. And many of you may know that story when Arjuna is in his teacher's Guru's academy. So there was some target practice. So there was all the students were called and they were told to shoot a target on the board on top of a tree. What was the target? You remember? Yeah, there's an effigy of an image of a bird, effigy of a bird, and the eye of the bird. Now, different people they came forward and they asked, "What do you see?" And they said, "Oh, I see the tree, I see the forest, I see the sky." What did Arjuna see? I see only the eye of the bird. Now it's interesting. Arjuna didn't say, "I see Krishna." Arjuna is a great devotee, and a devotee means to see Krishna everywhere. Then why did he say, "I see Krishna"? And why did Drona not chastise him? Why did not see Krishna? I see only the eye of the bird. Well, the point is, yes, Arjuna was a devotee of Krishna, but he had been given by Krishna a gift, the gift of talent in archery. And he was using that. So his focus on the target was a part of his using his gifts. Some of you talk about you want to pursue our passion or connect our passion with our purpose. So the understanding here is how we find happiness. It is by linking with the one who is source of all happiness. But that does not mean that we just turn away from the world and neglect the world. Rather, the understanding is that we have been taking the same diagram in a different way over here. If you consider Krishna is here, although he is everywhere also, but we have been given some gifts, and those gifts have been given to us by God. Now, some of us may have intellectual abilities, some of us may have mathematical ability, analytical, linguistic abilities, musical abilities, but we all have been given gifts. So what we have is actually Krishna's gift to us. And then what we do with what we have, that is our gift to Krishna. So life is within the bhakti understanding meant to be this divine circle of love, where what we have is a gift given to us, and we value the gift, we discover the gift, and that's why that introspection or discipline, when we try to pursue the happiness, okay, we follow some discipline, some rules. The poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. Krishna says, what it leads to? It's great, leads to greater self-understanding. So, for example, if we follow a regular lifestyle, we do our sadhana regularly. This time I wake up, this time I eat food, I do all these disciplines. So by this discipline, we start getting more and more inner clarity. Atma buddhi prasad. We get self-understanding. Otherwise, without that self-understanding, our desires are largely determined by the world. People say, if you become this, you will be happy. Oh, this is so glamorized, this is very lucrative, this is that like this. Therefore, do this. And you become. So, but what happens is we are letting the world determine our results. But when we practice discipline, when we practice sadhana, that sattva-guna, when we have a regulated lifestyle, then what happens is we start getting inner clarity. We start getting inner clarity. Is there suppose you have to send a message on your mobile and you start typing the message. Each time you start typing a word, the mobile start asking you, okay, which font do you want? What font size do you want? What background do you want? What color do you want? Now, if you go into the parameters of the phone, sometimes you may have dozens of parameters for a simple message. Now, if we had to fill all those dozens of parameters, each time you send a small message, I'm coming in 5 minutes. Well, filling those parameters will take 15 minutes. See? So, okay, have some default settings, and then you can actually send the message. So, like that, having some rules that govern our life, that's like having some default settings. Once those default settings are there, then we can move forward. Some of the default settings are politics. Those we have to check, to correct those. But the point is, regulation helps us to move forward, to discover our needs. So, when we have to develop our desires, first we need to discover our desires. So, discover our gifts. Discover, how do we do that? By regulation of life, it gives clarity. Clarity of mind, clarity of heart, by which we can understand, okay, what are my gifts? Sometimes I may have a gift for art, but the whole world is looking for music or glorifying music. And then I try to go to music and I'm not really very good at it. Or I may have a gift for for maths, but everybody is going to software. And then I go into that and you know, there could be various areas. So by spiritual practice, we start getting greater inner clarity. And then these desires, both this desire for connection and the desire for contribution, both these desires, we develop them. We won't develop those desires. That which the Prabhupada once asked by Prabhupada, come to America, now he came to UK. And UK at that time, London was the headquarters of the European outreach. So at that time, some of his one of his disciples, Rochin Prabhu, he's based in Lazio, I met him some time ago. So he said the different devotees from Spain, devotees from Italy, devotees from France, devotees from Portugal, they're all coming. And of course, they were reporting about how the outreach is going on. And Rochin Prabhu said that, "Prabhupada, everybody has something to do for you. Please give me also some service." And once what do you want to do for me? What do you want to do? So, Prabhupada, whatever you want to do, I will. Prabhupada, what do you want? No, whatever you tell me, I do. Prabhupada said, find out what you want to do and do it first. Finding out what you want to do means that it doesn't mean somebody says, I want to watch 10 million 20 hours. And that's a very superficial answer. I want to be a millionaire or a billionaire. That's like a what do you call it? Like a teenage fantasy. Yes. Okay, if you get $1 million, what are you going to do with it? What do you want to do in your life? So what is that? What are those deeper desires? Find out what you want to do and do it first. Basically, what Prabhupada says, find out what are our gifts, what are the things that actually interest us, what are the things that actually draw us. And then, so when we talk about developing our desires, it requires first to discover our desire, discover our gifts. Now, after discovering our gifts, then discovering everything on, then we have to direct those gifts. Or what? Sorry, that's the last part. It is like discipline ourselves to enhance or to strengthen those gifts. See, anybody might have talent, but talent needs to be have commitment. So any thoughts you want to say, many of you may have studied the spiritual wisdom and you want to share this wisdom. So okay, you study the wisdom, develop that. You can become public speaker, you can become sing, you can manage, you can do so many things. So whatever gifts we have, we learn to discipline ourselves so that we develop those gifts. And this discipline we see as a way of serving the Lord. And then direct our gifts for Krishna's pleasure, not Krishna's pleasure, not the world's praise. Because sometimes people may have gifts, but it is very frustrating. Somebody is a talented musician, and nobody thinks that the person is talented, or nobody recognizes that person. So when this happens, it leads to immense dissatisfaction. We may have talents, but we all know there's some authors, one of my mentors is writing. There's some authors, they wrote brilliant books, but their books became widely known after they died. And they're practically unknown during their life. But if they thought, oh, nobody is noticing my book, nobody is reading it, why should I write it? In our own tradition, the Goswamis wrote various books. No, you knew that the tradition was going to become so big in the future and books were written. But they wrote because that was their point. So we need to create our gifts for Krishna's pleasure. I'm doing this for the Lord. So if you go over here, sometimes what happens is we may reduce our frame. That means, okay, I forget that these gifts are given to me by God. It's just that I am talented in this, and I will make my mark on the world. कुछ करके दिखाना है. So it's not कुछ करना है, कुछ करके दिखाना है. It's subtle but very significant difference. कुछ करके दिखाना है मतलब उस व्यक्ति को दिखाना है कितना बड़ा. I have to show this person how big I am. Now that can be a motivation for some people, but that motivation is often something which leads to frustration. So initially, it may be that we seek recognition and fame in the world. But if our frame is limited, I have these abilities, I'm going to make it big in the world. Then, no matter how big we make it in the world, still it will not be. Why? Because there will always be someone bigger than us. Nowadays, people say, for many people, making $1 million is not as important as making 1 million Instagram followers. That's the kind of, oh, I'm so famous. I am an influencer. Influencers often on social media, Instagram, TikTok, people are famous for nothing except being famous. So now, when people are like that, they're seeking the world's fame, but the world's fame is fickle, they can know you. And somebody may have 1 million followers, is going to be happy with that, they'll be looking, why did that person have 2 million? Why does, if I have 10 million, why does that person have more? If our vision, if our brain is limited only in the world, then even if we have abilities, even if we get recognition from those abilities, still that will not give us satisfaction. We need to be able to direct our abilities for Krishna's pleasure. So when we are practicing spiritual life, it is not just about give up the world because the world is a place of misery and go towards God. Yes, the world is a place of distress. Often our own desires can increase our distress. But when we learn to develop our healthy desires, we discover our gifts, we discipline ourselves so that those gifts can become better, and then we direct the activities that we do using our gifts towards the Lord. Then that will bring us deep satisfaction. In fact, the deepest satisfaction. So the world is a place where we are meant to develop our healthy desires. By practicing the principles of bhakti, we become truly who we are and who we are meant to be. Yes. God didn't want us to suppress us. He wants us to bring out the best that is within us. And that's what the Gita calls upon Arjuna to do, and that's what can be done for each one of us. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. So we're discussing the topic of happiness, and we discussed broadly 5 points. The first point was that about happiness being of the dual nature of happiness. Dual nature means something is which like nectar in the beginning but poison in the end, and something which is like poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. So this happiness we discussed. How does this come? It's come with the contact of the senses with the sense objects. And this contact, the problem with this contact is threefold. Do you remember the three parts? When we see happiness,
Unachievable, unretainable, unfulfilling.
yes, it can be unattainable, it can be unretainable, and then lastly, it can be unfulfilling. Even if you get it, it can be unfulfilling. But we are depending on something which we may not get. So then, even if you get it, it's satisfied. So then I talked about it in an acronym. What is the acronym? Time. So what is the time? It's whatever we have to be temporary. It's not going to last for us. Then insubstantial. Insubstantial means if we get it, it doesn't live up to our expectations. Then misery inducing. That is a special. Sometimes some things, especially, they end up either intrinsically or extrinsically causing us unhappiness. And lastly, exhausting. So it's like a treadmill we can't get off. It just exhausts us. Oh, I got this and I have to get that and I have to get that. And the overall principle was that there's one summary sentence you said. What was it? That the search for happiness, it ends up becoming the cause of unhappiness. So addictions are like a direct example of this. But there are so many other things which wherein the very search for happiness, very things we do for happiness, they become the cause of unhappiness for us. And then, so that does that mean that we give up the search for happiness? No, we want to direct, so we want to process, or let's put it in process, guide our search for happiness. So for that, we discussed 3 points or 3 approaches to desire management. What are the 3 approaches? RAD. R-A-D. R was what? Reject. There are some desires which we just need to reject. They take us away from ourselves. So Krishna says, don't be a desirer of desire. So those which take us away from ourselves. I talk an example of that addict. Oh, this is the time when we realize that if I have unhappiness, if this is a great realization to get unhappiness, it's caused not by frustration of desire, but by, you remember the other part? It's caused by domination by desire. Not because my desire is not fulfilled that I'm unhappy, but rather that very fact that I have this desire and this desire is forcing into these things, that is the cause of unhappiness. So when we realize this, it's a great blessing to get this realization. A was accommodate. Yes. There are some desires you can reject, but not everything. There are many desires which we learn to accommodate them. So, for example, food, sleep, recreation, what Krishna talks about. These each person has to decide that what is the level that I can do, I engage in this so that I can be functional in the rest of my life. So with respect to desires, there is the black side which has to be rejected. There is the white side. This is reject. Then in between is the gray that is to be accommodated. And then D was what? Develop. So bhakti is not about giving up desires, it is about taking up desires. So develop means, which desires do we develop? There are 2 parts of the desire: the connection with the Lord and then the contribution. Remember the connection? Connection is what if I am here, then connect is with Krishna and contribute is in this world. So connection and contribution. And then for giving this connection and contribution, developing these desires. What do we do? 3 steps for developing the desires. First, what we need to do is discover our gifts. So through self-discipline, we can get inner clarity once we discover our gifts. Then we discipline ourselves so that we can. So first discovery is self-observation. The specific discipline is for refining those particular gifts, get the training. And then lastly, direct those gifts. That even if we have gifts and we are using those gifts, if we are focused too much on recognition from the world, then we will not get happiness. But in this way, when we learn to connect ourselves with Krishna, then whatever abilities we have been gifted with, what we have is Krishna's gift to us. What we do with what we have is our gift to Krishna. In this way, it becomes a very enriching and fulfilling cycle of reciprocal love with the Lord, which we can engage with in this world itself. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Do we have time for a few questions? I know it's been a long session, so if you have one or two questions, we can take them. Yes, please.
So you were talking about artists and authors who their desire to write is stronger than their desire to praise and think. How we should learn our talents and then engage them for Krishna. But at least what I've seen is it's very easy as you discover your talents, get absorbed in sharpening the talent itself more so than serving with it. So how, as you discover your talents and learn more about what you're capable of doing, you don't get carried away by actually just indulging in your new capabilities themselves versus only using what you need to serve.
Okay. It's a good question. Our talents are gifts from the Lord. And it is definitely important to acknowledge the gift that we have. But let's say we go to some friend's place when they are a small child and we give them a gift. The child is so happy to see the gifts are jumping and joy. Just seeing that they are happy with our gift will be happy. But the child takes the gift and just forgets us. Doesn't even say thank you. Doesn't even acknowledge our presence. Well, that's not very pleasing, isn't it? The child is understandable. But so valuing the gifts that we have is good. Valuing the giver of the gifts is even more important. So for us, the gifts in themselves are valuable. And anyone, even if an atheist for that matter, an atheist develops their gifts and uses their gifts. You know, an atheist is a good artist, atheist is a nature lover. They can use those gifts and they use those gifts. That's good. Now, of course, if the atheist is using that to propagate atheism, then there's a question over there. But in general, talent for one, a gift for one is actually a gift for everyone. The one person who is a good decorator, that person makes a dark, sudden place into a bright, uplifting place. That's a gift. So just valuing the gift should not be devalued. However, when we are spiritual seekers, it's important to remember that there are so many people in this world who have gifts, but ultimately, just the gifts won't bring us lasting satisfaction. As I said, I'm an author. I'm on the top 10 authors from the last century. 7 of them ended up taking their own lives. And it is not, what is the reason? It's complex. But overall, what happened is that they wrote famous books and big award-winning books. But then after that, the talent started dwindling. And they tried to write another book, and this is just not good enough. And then what happens? It's like we all need some every day when we wake up, we need to have something to look forward to in our life. But if some person is living constantly with the realization, with the painful realization that my best is behind me, that my best work is behind me. Something like it's very depressing. If we think that we are the source of our talents, then why are those talents not coming to me? Why am I not able to do something as good as me? So talents alone, gifts alone, they can be source of some happiness, but they can also become the source of unhappiness when they start not working for us the way we want them. Arjuna was a great archer, and then eventually his archery ability failed when he was shooting arrows and it utterly humiliated him. His arrows didn't even reach the target. Till the end, person, his arrows would never miss the target. And what do you do? You know, this gift is gone. And Krishna is also gone. But then yes, Krishna is with. So becoming infatuated with our gifts can also eventually take us on to a path of peace. So value the gifts, also value more the giver of the gifts. Thank you. There's one more question. Yes, sir. Okay, you have the mic. Yes.
So, thank you so much for the. So, as you told that some desires are attainable, it leads to dissatisfaction, uncertain leads to anxiety, and unfulfilling leads to disappointment. But sometimes it also happens that the desires are they are fulfilled. It gives pleasure for some time, and then later on you feel guilty about it. So, for example, if a student is cheating an exam, now he got the answer. He got the answer. He felt happy that he got A grade, and then he realizes that okay, even if it was A minus, it still would have made sense. But he's inside he's feeling guilty about it. So how should we categorize that?
Okay, that's a good point. See, whenever any kind of analytical tools are used for categorization, we need to know that they are like maps. Now, a map is useful for navigating the territory, but a map is not the territory. The territory will always have more complexity. Like the India, the America-Canada border, just like a smooth line. But if you go there, which part is exactly where? This river, okay, this hill it separates America from Canada. Well, which part of the hill is in America, which part of the Canada? It's not so easy to know. So there will always be nuances between categories. So what I said when we said is unfulfilling, well, yes, I got the desire, but then the price I paid for getting this desire fulfilled, it's not worth it. That also can lead to dissatisfaction. So it's unfulfilling in that sense. It's a guilt. Now, guilt could be because I did something wrong, but guilt could also be because of there is what is called buyer's remorse. Some people buy things, they go on a buying spree from Amazon and then think, why did I buy it? So I got it, but maybe I spent too much on it. So that's also broadly within the category of unfulfilling. Unfulfilling because it's not good enough, or maybe it's good, but the price I paid was too much. Yes.
Yeah. So you said there will be direct or gift to Krishna. Then Krishna is satisfied. So how do we know that Krishna is satisfied, and how does Krishna being satisfied lead to our satisfaction?
How do we know which line is satisfied? That's a great mystery. It's a variety of factors. It is not that Krishna wants to hide behind a veil of mystery and elusiveness and keep us unsteady and confused. That's not Krishna's nature. The fact is that we, by our own desires, have clouded our nature. So that's why it's very difficult for us to perceive Krishna's satisfaction, right? In general, Krishna's satisfaction, you perceive it through internal and external resources. So external is the association that we have. We have, if we are in the association of people who are also devoted to Krishna, then their lives are oriented toward Krishna and their value system is broadly aligned in such a way that they can guide us, they can tell us that what we are doing is is something which will be pleasing to Krishna. Another thing is the contribution itself that we are making. Contribution means if we are getting result in a particular service, then that is indicating Krishna is good. Krishna wants us to do it more. So Srila Prabhupada tried various things. He tried serving in India, he tried outreach in India, so many things. He came to America, he tried in America various things, in Butler, then he came to New York, when he came to New York, went to the Lower East Side of June. Some things worked, some things didn't work. So basically, contribution means the efficacy, the effectiveness. Palena parichayate, as Prabhupada was saying. So the pleasure of the devotee, the pleasure of Krishna, the magnitude of the results that we are getting. Then from internal perspective, our own contentment. If we are pleasing Krishna, the metaphor that is given is that when you water the root of a tree, all the leaves get watered. So when we are actually pleasing Krishna, we can experience a sublime contentment that does not depend on the world's recognition. If the world's recognition comes, wonderful. But even if it doesn't come, like say, if say studying scripture and maybe teaching writing is our call, if say music is our call, then if we give a class, if we sing and people appreciate it, that's one image. But even if there's no one to appreciate, every good is that hours and hours of practice or a good spiritual teacher, what they speak is probably 1% of what they have studied. And maybe 90% of what they studied, they will never get an opportunity to speak. But they have the interaction themselves. So that contentment is there. And this is what I want to do. In general, that contentment, content, this is what I meant to do, this is what I want to do. So it's almost as if we don't need the world's energy to do it. But as pointed, somebody might materialists might also get some level of contentment in material things. So internally is attraction to Krishna. Attraction not just to that activity, but our attraction to Krishna should be fixed. We may do various activities, but our attraction to the Lord. So if broadly these four parameters are there, devotee is satisfied with what we are doing, our service is producing results, we feel content even when nobody is around praising us for what we are doing, and we feel attracted towards the Lord. So contentment is more in the gift itself. Attraction is to the giver of the gift, like I was saying earlier. So if these four things are happening, then definitely we can say that Krishna is pleased with us. Samsiddhir doshu. Okay. The last question before we stop. Okay, there are two questions. Let's see. Okay. We have one. Okay, okay, you speak louder. You speak louder.
So, you mentioned in the beginning, two verses, the happiness in the mode of passion, happiness in the mode of ignorance.
Goodness.
Goodness. So, there's a point in the beginning and the negative end, and vice versa. So, I was wondering, the happiness which people in general perceive, me including the whole, like people in general, the happiness So happiness, which thing is something which you get from the sense perception in general. So, but we come to bhakti and we learn how the real happiness is.
How
The real happiness is totally phase shift.
is to
Is a totally phase shift. Is earlier thinking of
phase shift.
Hare Krishna. So earlier we thinking the happiness is we all meant the sense perception, the sense happiness before the bhakti. And after bhakti, it's we understand that is a source of misery, not the way of happiness.
Yes.
So it's like a whole phase shift of happiness in our life. So and then we explain to that when I say the example of pardon. So earlier, pardon, that how we can do the phase shift. We have this pearl, but we have to expand our consciousness, expand our purpose, like ocean, so that the river of those distractions, they don't just like don't just distract us. But the question is that there is one more thing comes along with those sense happiness or those mode of passion happinesses, the samskaras, the impressions come to the mind. So though we start learning bhakti, practicing bhakti, but the samskaras of the prior bhakti, they keep dragging. So it takes time to do those impressions to spread out. So the process of like expanding our consciousness, that is a one like is a one side process going on. But at the same time, how to like what are the
So it's an accommodate. That's the whole part. Accommodate students, we have a past and we can't be sure our past. So each of us has our particular level of relations. And we have to learn to be kind to ourselves. It's a healthy relationship with ourselves. It has to have both these aspects. A healthy relationship with ourselves. We talk about healthy relationship with others. But what is the characteristic of a healthy relationship in general? If a relationship is good, my relationship with someone else is good, for example. And the result of that relationship is that that person becomes better and I become better. It's, we enjoy each other's company, that's one thing. But a healthy relationship is where both of us become better. So if we can say a healthy relationship with ourselves, that means say, I am here, this is with others. With myself, we say, I am looking at myself from above. So I think we all have capacity for self-observation. So when I am looking at myself from above, there is a time when I can see, okay, that time I got angry and so harsh, I should not have done that. That time I got angry, I should not. So, ideally speaking, what happens is healthy relationship means there's a lower self, like the mind, the impulsive part of us. There is the higher self, which is the intelligence, the reflective part of us. So, ideally speaking, a healthy relationship means this lower self moves upwards and the higher self also moves upwards. So both parts of us start moving. And we have to be evaluating that there are times when we need to be hard on ourselves. If you've done that, I think you guys need to get some consequences. So like that, you go and apologize, you do this and this, and sometimes we need to be kind to ourselves. Okay, I am in this situation right now, and it is going to take some time. It's not going to happen immediately. So, I have to, so when we hard to ourselves and when we kind to ourselves, that we need a balance. If we are only hard on ourselves, So eventually, what will happen is you just be riddled by guilt or inadequacy. Eventually, this leads to depression. The person who is constantly hard on themselves, it's like imagine you are with someone and that person constantly is criticizing us. It's very difficult to be that person. On the other hand, they are constantly coming to us, it's often us. Then all that happens is stagnation. We will never grow. See, much of modern spirituality, new age spirituality, falls in this category. It's all about, I saw one t-shirt, the sun says, you are perfect as you are. The whole idea is self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is important. But you can say you are valuable as you are worthy as you are, perfect. You can say they are perfect. If they are perfect, that means they have attained a plateau. And there's nothing more to do with them. So this can lead to stagnation. And the stagnation is also not very good. Now, only hard on ourselves. This is much of traditional religion, especially Boston Catholic Church. So there's a whole infamous Catholic guilt, they call it, that the psychology of creating guilt in people, thereby making them, keeping them under the control of the authority. So that's put off a lot of people away from religion. So Krishna consciousness is meant to be a balance between these. Prabhupada, whoever talked to Prabhupada was not sending people on a guilt to make them do this. Never Prabhupada said, I have done so much, why I am not doing this. Prabhupada is inspiring people with his own example and with his readings, with his their own dedication. So people put it to come do more and more stuff because it inspires you. So this balance is something you have to see from the result. That means, say, if I did something wrong, and is it something which I could have avoided? The condition is very strong. It may just be impossible for me to resist it correctly. Say somebody has a very short temper. Now we may want to give the short temper, but we're not going to give it immediately. So maybe if somebody has a short temper, they should not be in charge of devotee care. Is it? Now somebody has a tendency where they eat a lot of food. Then they just can't stop eating. Maybe they should not be in charge of marks. So each of us needs to find out how can I elevate myself? And where do I kind of myself with this condition takes. So we don't have to burden ourselves with guilt, but we have to acknowledge maybe then because I have this condition, I should not be doing this circumstance. What makes it problematic is I have the conditioning, I'm not able to give up the conditioning, and still I want the prestige and the privilege of someone who has given up the condition. That is the problem. If we take we set some boundaries for ourselves to this condition, I cannot do this, that's fair enough. Okay, last question. Thank you, very thoughtful questions, very, very candid questions.
My question is for you mentioned how the process of being happens there at so the D part, you have to develop the desire.
Yeah.
So how you mentioned like how to love a part. You rather stay you rather happy and love, but he came to US to expand his more. So my question is, how do we really develop those desires?
How do we develop those desires? In general, it is by associating with those who have similar healthy desires. It may not be the same healthy desire, but similar healthy desires. See, broadly, there is the desire to serve Krishna, and there are the desires to serve Krishna. What do you mean by the difference? The desire to serve Krishna That is, you could say, a broad service attitude. This we can get by coming with the association of dedicated devotees. And then there are the desires to serve Krishna. By desires to serve Krishna means there are many different desires. So some of the devotees with whom I had been introduced to Bhakti. Now they're doing temples for Krishna. Now when I see that, and I don't get a desire, I want to build a temple. That's not my nature. I'm more of the teachers, but seeing their dedication inspires me to study scripture more, teach scripture more, to write more. So the specific desire, the desires to serve Krishna, they can be many because they are specific. So by associating with others, our desires will be developed. So it could be that person may have a different gift and they will be inspired, they will be inspired to develop that gift, but we will be inspired to develop our gift. So we need both association. That means we need association of devotees who are dedicated to Krishna, who are dedicated to using their gifts in Krishna's service. And then we need association of those specific devotees whose gifts are more or less the same as our gifts. So if I get inspired by somebody who's built a temple, but I get also inspiration, and more inspiration by some authors who are some devotees who have written books, the depth of thought they have, the depth of understanding something that they have. So sometimes if till we get to know our specific gifts, we may associate generally with devotees and get inspiration. But once we start knowing our gifts, then we also need to specifically associate with what is called as like-minded devotees. So like-minded devotees. That's where I think they have the same specific desire to serve Krishna that we have. So those devotees, for example, are youth outreach. When those people in youth outreach come together, and they see, oh, it's brilliant, they all get inspired. So that, but association with the people around desires. So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Very good.
Hare Krishna. So we would like to thank His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu for such an insightful, thought-provoking class. Well, how to chanting 3 times. Hare Bo. Hare Bo. So the nectar will keep flowing for next 2 days of our camp. So now, next schedule is as follows. We'll have some break of 10 minutes and relax. And we are setting up the lunch on the top floor for the camp participants. So we'll have lunch after this. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, when it's what is channeling a life of Bhagavad Gita, that these things, the 4 things that I talked about. The Bhagavad Gita was